love will tear us apart again.
5 types of worldly spouses. And within those 5 types, there may be a hybrid between them, meaning a mix of these 5 types that I've observed throughout 20 plus years of being around the Jehovah Witness culture. I myself am a worldly spouse. The word worldly is a derogatory term from Jehovah Witness members to people of the world, people that are not Jehovah Witnesses and have no desire to become one. They are considered worldly, and us against them type of terminology to separate the JWs from everyone else. So a lot of Jehovah Witnesses are married to non-believers, worldly people. Thus, the name of my channel and how I identify myself. It's kind of considered, to me at least, like the N-word in the United States, the derogatory name given to black people here in the United States. But in the same fashion, I take that word and re-own the word and not make it into a positive thing, but kind of like declaw its meaning by calling myself the worldly spouse. And also, give awareness to people that stumble upon my channel. But here I will identify 5 types of worldly spouses that you may encounter if you go into the Jehovah Witnesses or are married to one or are dating one. But you dating a Jehovah Witness and being mingled in their social circles, that's a very slim thing to happen, because look at other channels, you'll see the whole mess that would abound. So the first type of worldly spouse is the combative spouse. Now, this is the poster boy for the Jehovah Witness organization in their propaganda. This is the spouse that mostly 98% of all Jehovah Witness would think what a worldly spouse is, from all the videos that are portrayed and the publications, things that are written about, non-believers, especially ones that you are possibly married to, if you're a believer, and their behavior, which is, like propaganda from World War II and throughout, world conflicts. It's the same scenario. They demonize you and take your humanity away from you, into pigeonholing you into this very narrow categorization of what a non-believer is morally, spiritually, and all those other types. But the combative spouse is by far the most widely known type of spouse that a typical Jehovah Witness will identify non-believers to be. And this person, the characteristics of this person, according to the Jehovah Witness propaganda, would be a my way or the highway type of spouse, where, the spouse might say, I don't want you to go to meetings anymore. I want you to stop being a Jehovah Witness, and if you don't, I'm going to leave you. That's sort of compromise. Oh, I wouldn't consider it a compromise, but a demand for their Jehovah Witness wife to stop their JW activities. The my way or the highway type of attitude. He or she is usually controlling as well, abusive, condescending, and part or full narcissist. Like I said, a watchtower propaganda poster boy for a worldly spouse. So this is pretty much is the prevalent image of what worldly spouses are to a Jehovah Witness. So I start off this list with the obvious from their perspective. And for a small percentage out there, this is usually the case. The combative spouse is out there. They are out there. And I've heard a handful of stories of these combative spouse and their antics as far as the abuse that they put their spouse through, their JW spouses through. Just people that doesn't know how to handle the situation that they're in, meaning the combative spouse, and they only know how to resort to their combative ways to deal with the differences between a JW member and a worldly person or a non-believer, non-JW believer. So, but for the most part, for this other categories, the rest of the categories are everyday run-of-the-mill people. I'm not going to say worldly spouses or, put them in a categorization from that. It's a category within a category. But everyone else from this particular list on would be normal, everyday people, no matter what country you come from or creed or belief or anything like that. So the next one would be the go-along worldly spouse. This is the kind that will accompany the JW to meetings, assemblies, and conventions, dressed up looking the part of a JW, but mentally out of it. Doesn't want to deal or be part of the Jehovah Witness whatsoever. And due to their ignorance of Watchtower policies and doctrines, they sort of just stay away or go along with what the other spouse is doing, the JW spouse, because they just don't understand the overcomplicated religion that their spouses belong to, with all the rules and things like that. So this person is just, go along with everything, go along with the meetings, even though they might listen to it and sit there and say, wow, this is really out there as far as theology, but, whatever. They just go along with it, dressed up, and yeah, what can I say? They just go along with what the JW spouse is doing or is involved with. Now, the next category, the third, I guess, in this list, is the First Amendment spouse. The First Amendment worldly spouse. And this is a spouse that will not challenge a JW religion due to adherence to the United States Constitution First Amendment, which it's an amendment that gives basic rights to its citizens to worship a religion or be in a religion. Freedom of religion, the First Amendment. And I'm pretty sure other nations and municipalities or whatever that's out there, tribes, have some version of this. I just don't know in your particular areas. But as far as in the United States, which I would think a good 75%, I'm just throwing this number out, of the 8 million JWs resides and are here in the United States. It's a United States born religion. That would be most of us, that if you are in that First Amendment spouse category, you will leave your JW spouse alone or not challenge or question their religion because you want to respect their right to worship whatever they want. Even though the Jehovah Witness religion is anti-constitutional or anti-civil rights, that's what I should say. It's part of it anti-civil rights, and a lot of it their doctrines and dogma in their religion that is not biblically based, though they'll twist the scriptures to make it sound like it's biblically based. A fourth category that I've seen out there was the over-friendly worldly spouse. A spouse wanting to make genuine friendships but cannot understand why he gets no love from JWs. And this is not often, where someone wants to be genuine friends with their spouses, JW spouses' friends, It's only natural. You don't think of what, because they're in a religion or not, that you cannot be friends with them or not. That's the way I sort of figured it. And I fell victim to this as well, where in this one community where we started to reside in, we were rooted in that community, and we were starting over, and we were going to make new friends. And I started to be a bit more friendlier to my wife's friends, to go camping or extracurricular activities. Even though I'm not a member, I didn't think of it as that. I thought of these people as regular, everyday people where I could strike up a friendship with one of them and be buddies and and do stuff. But there was resistance to that, unbeknownst to me. Here I am acting naturally, but I did not get no love in return. Luckily, none of them, made friends with me or to try to preach to me or count time, which if I would have figured that out later on, I would have been a little bit upset saying, this friendship is built on you trying to save yourself, trying to work for salvation according to their dogma, instead of genuine friendships between me and you. But I'm glad it didn't head that way, now that I know a bit more. There you have it. The over-friendly spouse that wants to be everybody's friend, and, it becomes a letdown because he cannot figure the JW people out because, he's considered bad association. So there you have it. The over-friendly spouse that cannot get any love from JWs as much as he or she tries. Now, this category of worldly spouse it's a big number of them. In my opinion, it's a big percentage of them of this type than the others. And that would be the absent worldly spouse. This spouse is invisible, does not go to any of the JW functions unless pressed by the JW spouse. He keeps away from all those activities. He doesn't want to get involved. He doesn't want to get to know these people. For whatever reason, being discriminating against them, or knowing what they were about, but loves his spouse so much that he's willing to sort of deal with it in his or her way by staying away, just not getting involved. And this could be somewhat, I wouldn't say dangerous or anything like that, but the JW spouse themselves, when he or she goes to a meeting or a function, a JW function, there's going to be 2 or 3 things that's possibly going to happen to him or her. One, everybody will have sympathy towards that JW spouse that is not accompanied by his absent worldly spouse. Say, oh, poor baby, you're here all alone, and you don't have your loved one with you. And with this course of action, he or she is not gonna make it, and you're gonna be alone anyway. That sort of attitude, and that is very prevalent. If anything, that's a number one thing that they will feel sympathy towards. But no worries, you will get another spouse when you go to the new system. That's their reasoning. That's their way of thinking. So that's one thing that could happen to the JW spouse that's not accompanied, let's say. Another thing would be, it could be a male or female. I have seen it more so with females like this. A female JW married to a male worldly spouse. In the Kingdom Hall or Assembly, mainly the local congregation there, that female, even though she's married, got the ring, is in love, and dedicated to the marriage, and they could even have a really good relationship, that person will get hit on by other male JWs in the congregation, flirting, and inappropriate, sort of getting together. I'm not the jealous type at all, but even I recognize some of the how would I say it, hitting on an unaccompanied JW spouse. And I think it's very prevalent too. So that could happen as well. Now, along with being an absent worldly spouse, They could come another downfall to being an absent worldly spouse, and that is the spouse that would let their a worldly spouse that would let their JW take over the children's spirituality. Since that worldly spouse, absent worldly spouse, is ignorant of the Watchtower's policies and destructive rules and things of that nature, they don't want no part of being anything near JWs. So if that couple has children, more than likely I've seen it more so that they would let the JW spouse take over the spirituality of the children, of their children. There goes a cycle of indoctrination, and slowly but surely the children will go against the absent worldly spouse. Both, yeah, it's just a bad thing right there. And that's one thing that I've noticed that is a big influence, or yeah, it's not a good thing. You have to put yourself get yourself in their spirituality to avoid that, or at least to have another set of opinions or voice of opinion that would counter the JW mindset. Now, this is the seventh category that I could count here, and I would say that this category is a hybrid, a combination of all the prior categorization, a hybrid of all of these: the go-along worldly spouse, the First Amendment spouse, the over-friendly spouse, the absent worldly spouse, and to some degree, a combative spouse. You will have any combination of that, any number of those combinations of more than two of those conversation, or two or more of those, would constitute a hybrid worldly spouse. And I believe I'm under that particular categorization, because I could go down this list, and depending on the mood that I'm in or what's going on in our family, in our relationship, I could exhibit any number of these categorization all at once, one at a time, or in combination of these that would make up my hybrid classification. I'm a jack of all spades as a worldly spouse, I would say. So within these categories, even though I think I would say that the majority of them are absent worldly spouses out there, you don't really see them out in the wild or in the congregations, because sometimes you don't know if that particular person that's a JW and is married, you don't know if their husband or wife is absent, or of that category. The ones that you do see a lot out there, the next higher percentage of worldly spouses out there would be a hybrid between the go-along worldly spouse and the over-friendly spouse. Now, these are the type of people that would accompany their wife, in full support of what they're doing, without any challenges. For example, I could think of this one guy who I'm like, why are you even, I don't know, something I would never do, but this is the type of guy who would get dressed all the time and go to, the meetings, even though he's not in the meeting. I'm kind of suspecting that he's beginning to kind of adhere to the JW, way, I think. But then again, I don't know. I don't think so. He's complicated like that. But in any event, he doesn't go to the meetings, but he'll go to the big ticket item stuff like the assemblies and conventions and the memorial. He'll be dressed up to go. This last time around, I do see him on Facebook. I seen him dressed up for the memorial that was held in private homes on the Zoom application, the remote tele memorial for the JWs, and he was there dressed up in his home for this, and he's a worldly spouse. Before that, I saw him accompanied his wife and family over to Bethel in New York at the world headquarters there to visit the museums there, their Bible museum or whatever they got, some exhibition there. and he actually was there with them and actually went to these things dressed up. He was dressed up in a suit and tie and everything, going through it and listening to all the exhibits. I seen all the pictures, the cute pictures people take, posing throughout all the exhibitions there. And my wife tried to have me sort of plan a trip where she could go to Walk Hill in New York, the headquarters there, and visit that place. But I told her straight up that I wasn't going to spend a dime on a trip that it's not fun for me. I have it wasn't going to happen. I'm not going to spend anything of my money to go to New York, to a place that I don't want to be in. And how I think of it now, into the mouth of the lion. My attitude about it now that I sort of know a bit better now. And I surely wasn't going to, have my kids go. I told her if she wants to go, she should get together with her JW friends and have a group, trip with them and have a good time, have a ball. But you're just going to have to do it without me. Meetings, going to meetings and assemblies and stuff like that. I don't want to go, but I have to go to be sort of like the debriefer to my children now. That's sort of part of my strategy of try to give my kids a difference of opinion about this whole thing. But I have to be there to listen to what they are saying up on the stage so I could give my kids a debriefing afterwards. But in that scenario, I will probably dress up the first couple of times so they could, be somewhat okay with me being there in a way, playing by the rules. But then after that, I'm not going to dress up anymore. I'll just be in comfortable casual clothing. One common denominator, and this is pretty much the main point of me making this video, is the biggest common denominator of all these worldly spouse categories is they all share this one characteristic. They are ignorant to the policies and doctrines, deep policies and doctrines of the Watchtower and Tract Society, Jehovah Witnesses. They don't know the rules of the game, of the JW game, and me included. We are all just like the card-carrying Jehovah Witness member are ignorant to the rules of the game, to the Jehovah Witness game. So without knowing the rules of the game, you can't really have a effective strategy to combat the effects and the effects of the Jehovah Witness dogma and their abusive policies. You can't protect yourself or your family against that. They have protocols to warn their members about worldly spouses, and the JW spouses, they know how to identify any sort of persecutions, any hint of persecution, and they act really quickly upon that. That leaves the worldly spouse, just wondering what just happened here. So I think the one thing is you have to know the rules of the game. You have to know their policies. You have to know the Bible, their Bible, and a regular conventional non-JW Bible. So you will know the differences and know the tactics that they play, the tactics that they use against you and your family. If you have knowledge of how they play the game and the rules of the game, you are at an advantage because you could play both sides of the coin there, using their rules against them. It's a fine line, but it could be done, and I'm having some good results with this. Very slow. I would say this again. It's not a battle to be won. It's the overall war to be won on this, and that would take time. Like I said, with my situation, it took 30 plus years for my wife to be indoctrinated in this from birth. It's going to take a lot of time to get her out of it. And as far as my children, I have to interject myself right in the middle of this between me and the Jehovah Witness destructive dogma, with their policies and their rules, with what's actually being said in a real Bible. Even though I'm agnostic, you still have to put on that. You have to use the real Bible against them, because that's the only way they would listen to you. The only way. No other way will do, and that's a fact. Maybe proven by myself with my observations, but overall, I think that's a winning strategy right there. So, okay, I hope this helps out. I hope this was a little bit humorous. I mean, with all the different types of worldly spouses out there, who would have known? But we are out there, and there's quite a few of us. Not vocal, not visible, but we are there. We just gotta, use the strategy and fight from within. Okay.